Welcome to the NBA here on 2K Sports. Friday Hoops Fest coming up next. It's the Boston Celtics going up against the Los Angeles Lakers. And that's it for us in the studio. To call all the action, let's go out to Kevin Harlan and the rest of the 2K Sports crew. I'll see you again at halftime.
And a thoughtful moment indeed. The national anthem and a crowd anxiously awaiting the tip-off. Hi everyone, this is the NBA on 2K Sports for our Monday afternoon broadcast alongside Clark Kellogg and Steve Kerr. This is Kevin Harlan. Thanks for joining us. A quick check now, the starting five for both teams. First for the Celtics, Rajon Rondo is out there with Jones. You've got Russell. It's his first official game as a starter. Then it's Bird, and it's McHale in at the four-slot. And for Los Angeles, West is out there with Kobe. And the big guy in the middle, Shaquille O'Neal. He's thrilled for this one. Everyone will be watching now how he does in his first official game. And it's LeBron James, and it's Davis at the four-spot.
You know, a big part of why the Celtics dropped so much last season was they weren't very good on the road. Ended with a 14-27 record away from home, which was by far the lowest of any team in the East that made the playoffs.
And as you said, Clark, rarely can you win just over a third of your road games like the Celtics did and expect to make the playoffs. And had they played closer to 500 on the road, you know, Steve, there's a good chance they could. And as you said, Clark, rarely can you win just over.
In the Celtics case, it wasn't their defense, Kevin. It was their offense that betrayed them when they went out onto the road. They just couldn't win the close games. And some of it was just age and injury. But so many of those road losses from last year just came back to haunt them, and that's why they ended up with that 7 seed.
And so the Los Angeles Lakers get the first points of the ball game. Rondo kicks to Bird.
Shut up!
Hits the front of the rim and out.
Great defense there. You really have to challenge him at that range.
James in the post. He's covered by Rondo. That's good. Kobe's got his first points of the game.
Well, Kevin, he's got such a great focus as a shooter. You know, he's a very frustrating player to guard because unless you actually block his shot, you are not going to get in his head and affect him.
And you know what? He's like a tank when he's coming down the lane. Lay into him as hard as you can. You're not going to be able to knock him off balance.
Here's Rondo following the basket by Kobe Bryant. Rondo passes to McHale. So he gets the whistle. Contact on the way up and 2 shots coming up.
Way to play in attack mode and get inside.
And, you know, if you're on defense and you're going to foul, make sure it's a good one. They did, preventing the and one.
It's his first trip to the line. And he knocks down the first one.
The Lakers ended up 17-13 against Eastern Conference teams last year, but that wasn't really a dominating effort. Certainly not what you would expect from a playoff team.
And McHale drops them both. Well, and to make the playoffs in the West, you do need to have a record similar to that of the Lakers against the East. You know, Steve, no team that made the postseason in the West had a record below 500, so the Lakers took care of what they needed to.
Well, you know what's odd, Kevin, is that in the shortened season before, when the Lakers were the cream of the Pacific Division and everything was going well, they only went 500 against the East. So, you know, if they want to bounce back this season, they'll need to not give away games and make sure they keep their out-of-conference record better than 500.
So it's Boston now, following the bucket by the Lakers. Rondo drives in. Now the pass to Russell. No good. So Los Angeles will take it the other way. Well, Doris, an interesting game. Moments ago, you had a chance to talk with head coach Frank Vogel. What do you have to say?
He said their main focus will be trying to contain Rajon Rondo. He said, quote, "We all know that Rondo's capable of taking over games single-handedly. So, guys," he said, "they've got to match his energy and try to keep him out of the paint."
All right, Doris, thank you very much. And here's Rondo, following the three-pointer by Anthony Davis. Back to Bird.
Hey, Rondo!
Outside Rondo. 6 on the shot clock. The feather touch on the finger roll. Beautiful.
Little touch of class there, guys. The end of that play with the finger roll.
The Lakers have gone 4 of 4 to start, so a nice offensive rhythm to start here.
You know, it always amazes me, guys, when you look at Rondo, who really doesn't have a reliable jump shot. And yet, because of his quickness, he's still able to get into the heart of the defense and get shots at the rim in the paint. I mean, you just can't do that if teams are giving you space in the NBA unless you have the elite speed of a Rajon Rondo.
Outside, Kobe. The 3-ball. Davis. The follow-up flush.
That's how to make your mark on the boards, with an emphatic finish.
Oh, Clark, he was savage on that second opportunity.
Yeah, those are the types of possessions that are really demoralizing for a defense, guys.
Here's Rondo, following the basket by Anthony Davis. Rondo dishes to Jones. And it's good, coming on the assist by Rajon Rondo.
Sam Jones.
Jones has got his first 3 points of the game. Well, back to Rondo, Steve. How is he able to get in the lane like that, even with the defense sagging back and knowing he's going to do what he's going to do?
Well, he's incredibly clever with the ball. He's quick. He's savvy. And, you know, sometimes when you sag back, it actually gives the offensive player room to accelerate. And so Rondo kind of goes right at you and then gives you that little Ginobili sidestep and gets to the rim.
Fun player to watch, isn't he?
Sure is.
So the Celtics call timeout. They're first. First quarter of play and just over 3.5 minutes in. Left side Rondo. He feeds it to Garnett. Uses the glass to finish the layup.
His presence is very comforting for this team. He's kind of a fallback option for them anytime they need it.
West against Rondo. Feeds it to Johnson. Backing in. Can't get it to go. Some solid defensive work there from Havlicek. 43 seconds left in the first. Jerry West pulls it in.
That's not a sight you see very often. I mean, he has a great feel for that jump shot, especially when he's open.
Good defense, but you gotta love the finish with the finger roll over the top. Well, he gives his team such a boost when he's on the floor offensively, Kevin, just because of his ability to anticipate the game, to make the right pass, make the right play, and all the intangibles he brings to the table.
And he also is incredibly adept at running the pick and roll. He almost always makes things happen when he instigates that play.
The free throw drops for Rondo.
Well, you know, last season I think officially brought the immediate championship aspirations of the Celtics to a close. The 7th seed in the East, dispatched in the first round by the Knicks. The rebuild was on in full cycle.
Now here's Goodrich. He dishes it to Abdul-Jabbar. James Worthy on the wing. Clock at 6. Excellent D there from Pierce. Celtics trailed by 3. Havlicek kicks to Rondo. Tatum, Abdul-Jabbar covering. Here's Havlicek on the mark with the 15-footer.
Whatever their plan was defensively that time, it didn't work. Not if it results in that shot.
Here's Goodrich. And that's not going to go. And a high-scoring first quarter. Both teams really filling it up. Lakers lead by 1. And the second quarter will be on the way when we come back. And we got a close game here as we get back to the second quarter. And guys, let's get your take on the scoring breakdown for the Lakers.
And the points they're getting in the lane will really help them open up the floor.
Also, what passing we've seen from them here early. I mean, there could be a big number in the assist column if this keeps up.
And Boston has possession. They trail by 1. And keeping us updated from the sideline, let's swing it over to Doris Burke for an update. Hi, Doris.
Guys, as everyone knows, Anthony Bennett was the #1 overall pick this season. And with the rise of the three-pointer in the NBA, the value of the so-called stretch 4 has never been higher. Stats have shown that playing 4 long-range shooters on the court at one time is a huge advantage for an offense. So for Bennett, a forward who can shoot with range and do damage inside, he finds himself in a league eager for his talents.
Certainly a player to root for. Thanks, Doris.
And, you know, he's still so young, but has shown a lot of promise. It's going to be really fun to watch him develop.
You know, last season, a lot of folks had the Lakers picked as the super team in the West, the team that would maybe challenge Miami and LeBron, but from the start, it just never was a cohesive group and really had one of the most disappointing seasons in the Lakers' history.
And that one falls for Johnson. Well, Clark, as you said, the Lakers had a lot of lofty expectations put on them, but you never know what's going to happen when a team is put together. And Steve, they just couldn't reach that bar that was set so high for them.
Yeah, the expectations were so high, Kevin, but injury issues cost them all season long. Nash, Howard, Powell, and, of course, Kobe with the Achilles at the end of the year. And that unit only started 7 games all season together, so they never really were able to develop any chemistry.
Now here's Walker. Walker gets a screen from Garnett, and Walker kicks to Brown. Walker back to Brown. Nice ball movement by Boston. Shot clock at 6. That falls. Nice feed that time from Walker. Brown's got himself going with the triple, his first basket of the game. Just over a minute gone here in the second quarter. Walker against Goodrich. Johnson kicks to Goodrich. The Lakers need to get a shot off here. Again, the miss by Johnson.
You know, with so many injuries to his team during last season, Paul Pierce easily could have taken things lightly, but he just doesn't roll that way. I mean, as a matter of fact, he played through a pinched nerve in his neck just to stay on the court when his team needed him. He is truly one of the all-time great players in the league and one of the outstanding Celtics of all time, too, and that's saying a lot with all of the Hall of Famers that have worn the green and white.
Boston making a switch here. Allen's checked in. The free throw drops for Garnett. And back to Paul Pierce last season. With Rajon Rondo out with that horrible ACL tear, he really carried the Celtics so far.
Yeah, especially offensively. I mean, we saw the drain on his efficiency, the lowest field goal percentage for him in 9 years. But, you know, he still can shoot threes, still gets to the foul line. They relied on him an awful lot last season.
Now Brown, following the three-point attempt by Kobe Bryant. Clark, they've been struggling here on offense.
Yeah, a little bit of cottonmouth here. Dry spell for sure.
Baylor gets the bucket.
Boy, beautiful assist. That's a couple of teammates clearly on the same page.
Now here's Allen. He kicks to Walker. And the dunk by Brown.
Rudely thrown down after the offensive rebound. He is ramped up now.
He is, you're right, and you figure this game might come down to a few of those effort plays.
Always does, Kevin.
Yeah, I wouldn't doubt it. Seems like that kind of a contest tonight.
Here's Kobe after the made shot from Brown. Here's Johnson. High quality look, and he sinks it.
Boy, he can be devastating with that hook shot.
The Celtics with the lead.
Not many teams, guys, in the East did very well against the West last season, and that in mind, you could call Boston's 14-16 record against the conference better than most.
Now a timeout called by Boston. And for the Celtics against the West, even in the shortened season, they were having a lot of trouble with some of the bigger lineups. More of the up-tempo teams out west.
Well, the Celtics were old and a little bit small, too. Kevin Garnett played center last year, so they played a lot of small lineups. And when you're small and you're old, sometimes, that's going to cost you, particularly on the road.
Russell, he's checked in for the Celtics. And the Celtics with possession here. Johnson over to help. Pierce kicks to Allen. Here's the feed to Walker. For three. That's good. Walker's got himself on the board with three there.
But you can't leave him alone, especially from long range.
Let's check out what Doris Burke has for us.
Well, gentlemen, the Lakers barely squeezed into the playoffs last season. Despite that, they had the largest luxury tax bill in the league, almost $30 billion, more than double the next highest team in the Miami Heat. So, maybe one silver lining for them with Dwight Howard deciding to move to Houston? The team won't have to shoulder the even more punitive taxes that began this season. Kevin?
Good point, Doris. Thanks. 2 on the clock. Pierce inside the three-point line, and it's Boston with another.
As much as anybody in the league, Pierce is able to hit the tough contested shots. And I think that's because of his strength and his skill level and his ability to knock defenders off balance before rising up and making his jump shot.
And, you said earlier, the big buckets down the stretch, Pierce always ready to do that. In the deciding moments of a game, that's when he really separates himself and deserves the moniker, the truth.
Boy, they are just destroying them in the paint.
You could say that again, Steve. The defenders just aren't aggressive enough down low.
Dishes it to LeBron. Back to Kobe. LeBron outside. Tips it. It's good on the putback. And it's 6 points for Johnson.
It was a slow start for him, but he started to take off since we hit the second quarter, guys.
And Walker kicks to Russell. Back to Walker. From deep. The Lakers with the rebound. Kobe's got 3 rebounds so far in the game. Here's Johnson, rejected by Pierce.
This should be the last possession of the quarter if they play it right.
And if their clock management's good, it will be.
Russell a screen on Johnson. Walker the pass to Pierce. Havlicek. Allen for 3. Count the bucket. Allen's got his first bucket of the game, and he's on the board for 3.
Intelligent passing there to make that hoop possible.
And that concludes the first half. Celtics out in front, up by 9. Folks, stay tuned for the halftime show at Game & Brews for all the highlights from our first half.
And now, brought to you by... What a better way to get through your Monday than with a little hoops on 2K Sports. Boston leading against the Lakers. A nice job of sharing the rock, making plays for one another offensively. Getting it done early, Kevin Garnett. He's got 5 points and 3 rebounds as well. And on the other hand, the Lakers are still alive. Their outside scoring is letting them down so far. And without that threat from outside, their offense is bogging down, unable to spread the floor. The first half, a letdown for Kobe. The shot, I'm sorry, it's been atrocious. Nothing's falling. Now let's head back out to the start of the second half. Kevin Harlan, Steve Kerr, Clark Kellogg, and Doris Burke, take it away.
The Sprint Halftime Report, presented by...
Now the second half about to start up and begin any moment.
Well, since the new CBA, the league has made the luxury tax much more punitive, but certainly the Lakers blessed with the financial wherewithal to be a tax-paying team. The problem is it can hurt your flexibility under the new rules just to make deals, and that's going to be the challenge for LA.
Now here's McHale. And it's Rondo penetrating. Back to McHale. Russell dishes to Jones. Three-pointer. Good, and the assist goes to Russell. Jones has got the first points to start out the third quarter for Boston. Well, you talk about the huge fan base for the Lakers, Clark. One of the marquee franchises, certainly in the entire NBA.
I would even stretch that to all of sports, Kevin. The market and their finances clearly have helped them gain that stature, but you can't shortchange the organization, the people making the decisions. They've been a winner for a long time, and that's been the magic ingredient that's attracted fans, players, sponsors, the full package.
For Los Angeles, they have been perfect at the line so far, albeit just 2 for 2.
Well, you look at last season's numbers, guys, down below 70% as a team from the line.
And I know the free throw shooting is an area they focused on improving coming into this season. And, you know, for the Lakers last season, a lot of turmoil. And you think about the coaching change, but it wasn't just that. It was a whole system change as well. And the front office felt the Princeton offense they started using wasn't working out. So they were in a state of flux all season long.
And going back to the Princeton offense that Clark mentioned, Steve, tell us about that offense and why do you think it didn't work out?
Well, they only gave it 5 games, Kevin. I mean, Mike Brown was 1-4 when he got fired, and that's impossible to install an offense and expect it to work that quickly. So, I mean, I think the offense would have been fine if they had given it time and given Mike Brown some time to install it.
Outside, Kobe. And with a little over a minute gone, the second half is underway. West off the pick from O'Neal. West again, Trundle. Step back on that one and let it fly.
One of the reasons they're behind is because we haven't seen enough of that. He needs to become a bigger part of the offense.
Now a timeout called by Boston.
You know, it's always strange to see how a team will react when they lose one of their biggest stars. Last season, the Celtics were thought to be dead in the water when Rondo tore his ACL, but they actually rallied and went on the winning streak after the injury.
And we're about a minute and a half here into the second half. McHale kicks to Rondo. And a foul called on the shot. Got him on the way up that time, so he'll shoot 2 right here. Well, Clark, as you said, with Rondo and the Celtics, they would go on to win the next 7 right after his injury. And overall, Steve played better than expected the rest of the way.
Sometimes that's the way these things go, Kevin. A star player goes down, everybody else kind of steps up, and instead of feeling sorry for themselves, they use it as a rallying cry. And all those role players for Boston really picked up the extra slack, and I thought they made a great push to end that season after the Rondo injury.
You know, there aren't too many drive and dish point guards